the Durst Show, we talk about Joe Biden. We talk about whether or not he's going to pack the court. Will it start a partisan arms race? We're also going to talk about Hunter Biden's computer, if it is really his computer, and whether the social media are censoring mainstream newspapers reporting on questionable actions and questionable facts. You'll hear both of those analyses as we discuss Joe Biden on the Durst Show. Today on the Durst Show, we're going to talk about Joe Biden, who very likely may become the next president of the United States. No, I'm not going to tell you who I'm voting for. That's not the purpose of the Durst Show. On the Durst Show, we don't discuss my personal politics. We discuss analysis, political analysis, legal analysis. I try my best to be objective and neutral and pass the shoe on the other foot test. And with that in mind, let's discuss a couple of aspects of Joe Biden and his campaign for president. I want to discuss basically two issues. Number one, his views on court packing, which came up again last night in the debate. And number two, the way Twitter and Facebook are treating the recent disclosures of information from a MacBook, a computer that apparently went to a repair shop in Delaware and then got into the hands of Rudy Giuliani and then the New York Post. Let's start with the easier subject of court packing. Finally, yesterday, Joe Biden said that although he wouldn't talk about court packing now, he's not a fan of court packing, but he wouldn't state his views because it would dominate the debate and become the headline the next day. He did say, pretty clearly, I thought, that between the time that Judge Barrett is confirmed, which will probably be toward the end of the month, and the day of the election, November 3rd, he will disclose his views on court packing. Not clear why he is taking that position. I guess he wants to hold a little bit of leverage over the head of Republicans. I don't think that's going to work. They're going to ram through this confirmation, come hell or high water. Look, she is highly qualified. Nobody has challenged her qualifications, her intelligence, her integrity, any of that. The big issues are, should the Republicans have gotten to make this nomination in light of what they said previously when President Obama nominated Merrick Garland 8 months before the election? That's number one. Number two, what does this do to the balance on the Supreme Court? Should a nominee who will be confirmed at best by a 51-49 vote, perhaps maybe even 50-50 with the deciding vote being cast by the vice president, should such a divided vote result in such a major change in the Supreme Court for the next 40 years? Because if she lives as long as Ruth Bader Ginsburg lived, she will serve on the Supreme Court for 4 decades. So those are the issues that are front and center in the confirmation. We didn't learn anything new, particularly about her judicial philosophy, about her views on precedent, about her views on the Constitution, on the Equal Protection Law, on privacy, any of those things. All of those, she said. She was invoking the Ginsburg rule, no hints, no forecasts, so we didn't learn very much. But we did learn something last night from Joe Biden, namely that he would tell us what his views are on court packing. He made it sound like his views might change depending on how the confirmation process goes. I don't see how that's going to change any views. We know how the confirmation process is going. We know that the Judiciary Committee will vote it out on a strictly partisan line vote, and we know that the Senate is likely to confirm on a strictly partisan line vote. So then Joe Biden will tell us what his views are. My prediction, again, don't like to make predictions, but my prediction is Joe will say, look, the Republicans deserve any response that the Democrats can give them on the issue of how to get nominations through the Senate. They deserve no pity. They deserve no compassion. They cheated. They were wrong. They should have allowed the Merrick Garland nomination to go through. They shouldn't have pushed this nomination. All that's true. But In the end, I think it would be taking revenge on the wrong institution, not the Republican Party, but the Supreme Court. If we, the Democrats, were to take the low road, follow the Republicans, and pack the court, which we could do, the Democrats could do it if they control the Senate, which the polls show they may likely do. If they retain control of the House, which they surely will, and if they regain the presidency, which the polls suggest they very well may, they would have the power by a simple vote. All you need is a majority of the House, the Senate, and non-veto by the president, and you can raise the number of justices to 147. Nothing prohibiting that at all except public opinion, history, tradition, the Roosevelt court packing plan failing, etc. I suspect that he'll say that to do that would simply result in an arms race. Democrats pack the court with 2 additional justices to try to level the playing field to make up for the lack of Garland and the nomination of Barrett. So you get 11 justices. 4 years from now, 8 years from now, 12 years from now, the Republicans, President, Senate, House. At that point, they have a minority on the Supreme Court because of the court packing. And so they say, what's the magic in 11? Let's raise it to 13 or 15. I think that Vice President Biden, who I've known for a long time, will probably say that's not good for the country. Will probably put country above party. I think that's who Joe Biden is. Look, I first met Joe when he was a young senator and a close friend of my close friend, Senator Ted Kennedy, who I did a lot of work for and with on human rights. And Kennedy introduced me to this young senator from Delaware, who I liked very much, who seemed like a really, really nice guy. And over the years, I saw him. I remember I was in the White House once for the Hanukkah party under President Obama. I used to get invited to the Obama Hanukkah parties until I opposed the Iran deal, and then I stopped getting invited. But I've gotten invited to the other Hanukkah parties from George Bush and from, obviously, President Trump. So I was at the Hanukkah party, and I was in with the president privately in the Oval Office, and my phone rang. And the president looked at me and said, "You shouldn't have a phone in here. You're talking to the president." I said, "Mr. President, I apologize, but my grandson is going to learn today whether he gets into Harvard or not. Today's the day." And I think that's him calling. I took the call. But sure enough, my son got into Harvard. My grandson got into Harvard. At that point, a few minutes later, I met the vice president, and I said to him, "Vice President, my grandson just got into Harvard. Here's my cell phone. Could you just send him a message?" And Joe said, "Sure, of course." He gets on the cell phone. And he says, "Hey, Lyle, congratulations. Good job getting into Harvard. Now you should pick the University of Delaware, better than Harvard." That's Joe. He's very, very funny. He's very warm. He's very nice. He's just a very nice, decent guy. And I think he'll put the interests of the country over the interest of his party when it comes to court packing. Look, I could be wrong. The Democrats are furious, and understandably so. And a number of my academic friends, who would generally be more sensible, have come out, at least privately, in favor of court packing. And I suspect if the presidential candidate came out in favor of court packing, you'd find a flurry of support. But he'd also lose some support among some moderate Democrats. And at this point, his advisors are telling him he's on a trajectory to win the election. Why create problems? He'd be better off if he didn't have to announce his views on court packing, but the pressures are too great. He made a mistake when he said the American public has not deserved to know what my views are. He took that back last night in his town hall. He said, yes, they do deserve to know what my views are, and they will learn before the election what my views are. So you heard it here. I think he's going to put country, the Supreme Court, over party, and he's going to reluctantly say that court packing is not the solution to the problem, and there are better solutions. And the better solutions are perhaps terms for the Supreme Court justices, 18 or 20 years, perhaps going back to the cloture and filibuster rules, where you need 60 senators to confirm a nomination to the Supreme Court. The second is easy to do. You just do that by a vote of the Senate. The first term limits would probably require a constitutional amendment, though there are some scholars, I think they're wrong, there are some scholars who say it can be done by legislation as long as it's done prospectively and it doesn't apply to currently sitting justices. Okay, we'll see where that takes us, but I think that Joe Biden is not going to support a court packing, even though he is legitimately angry at the Republicans, in his view and the view of many Democrats, stealing at least one seat, perhaps two seats, from the Democrats. The very fact that we talk about Republicans and Democrats having seats on the Supreme Court shows us how bad this has become. The Supreme Court is not supposed to be a place where Republicans and Democrats get to have seats, and Chief Justice John Roberts keeps saying that, but the evidence keeps disproving him. So we do have a very partisan Supreme Court. There will be a lot of 5-4 and 6-3 decisions in the years to come, and they will generally favor the conservative side. And we're going to see a lot more activity around rights like the right of abortion and the right of gay marriage in the legislative and executive branches of the government if the Democrats get control of two of the three branches of government. All right. Point two about Biden. First of all, I just feel terrible for Joe Biden, for his son, for the family, that his computer somehow ended up in a repair shop. I don't know. I can't tell you whether or not that's really his computer, Hunter Biden's computer. According to the New York Post this morning, it hasn't been denied, but it hasn't been confirmed. The New York Times this morning says it can't confirm the accuracy of the material on the computer. But if you look at the material, at least some of it seems to be accurate. Hunter Biden talks about going to Mass on Sunday with his father, sitting in the back row, not liking the Mass, being hugged and kissed by his father at the end of the Mass. It all sounds Biden-like. It all sounds like the Joe Biden I know. But that doesn't mean that people who are trying to get the Bidens didn't insert into real emails some fake emails relating to Burisma and the Ukraine. I'm not saying they did. I'm just saying that the mere fact that there are some accurate parts of the computer and the emails, that doesn't necessarily mean that everything is accurate and reflects what really went on. Obviously, the Russians and others are fully capable of taking a computer, using the real material on it to give it credibility, and then adding material that's not credible. I don't know whether that happened, but that's not the point. Neither does Twitter know what happened. Neither does Facebook know what happened, and that's what I want to focus on. Both Twitter and Facebook have limited or eliminated or imposed constraints on the New York Post's tweets and stories regarding their breaking news, whether it is news or fake news or not. We'll learn at some point later on. But I want to focus on Twitter and Facebook. Let me tell you what the problem is. The problem, and it's very personal. I can give you a personal account of it, why I feel so strongly about this. When Twitter starts saying that we're going to take things down because they don't meet our standards, then you have to ask yourself, why didn't they take other material down? Why doesn't that violate their standards? And here I'm going to get personal. Just go on Twitter under my name every day. You will see the worst things being ascribed to me, things that have been disproved beyond any doubt. No matter what I say or do, there are the Twitter trolls who will go back and accuse me of things that I have totally disproved, that my accuser has admitted didn't happen. She's admitted on emails that she never met me. She's admitted in a book manuscript she never met me. Her lawyer admitted she didn't meet me, and it was wrong. The FBI former director did a study. It's as clear as could be that this is a woman who's made up a complete story about a man she never met. But not on Twitter. On Twitter, I am as guilty as anybody could possibly be. There's not even any doubt about my guilt. So my question for Twitter, I'm not a Facebook user, so I don't know. But my question for Twitter is, what are your standards? Why do you take down something from a computer that involves the potential election of the President of the United States, whether right or wrong, and leave up all the tweets about me, which are demonstrably false and wrong. I'm not complaining. In fact, you want to ask me what my rules would be? My rules would be Twitter shouldn't take anything down. My rule should be they're a taxi cab. First one who hails them gets in the cab, pays the fee, and gets taken to where they want to get taken. I would prefer to see no censorship on Twitter or Facebook or any of the social media. But my point is, if you're going to do it, if you're going to have some censorship, if you're going to have some standards, we, the public, have to know what they are. And they have to be uniformly applied. Because, let me tell you the implications. If you take down the Hunter Biden thing and you leave up the Alan Dershowitz thing, then the public has the right to say, gee, Twitter must have decided that the Alan Dershowitz allegations are true because they didn't take them down. They've taken down the Hunter Biden one. So by having selective approach to what they censor and what they allow, what they take down and what they don't take down, they are sending a false message that they are certifying the truth, the accuracy, whatever, of some information and not of others. Now, they may say it has nothing to do with truth or falsity. It has to do with whether or not the material was hacked. No, I want to know those standards. And how do you determine whether something was hacked? And is something hacked when it was left there, if this is true, we don't know if it's true, by the owner of the computer who then didn't pick it up and then it was sold or given by the repair shop to political enemies? These are things we have to know. The great issue under the First Amendment for the 21st century is going to be, and already is, social media. They're private. They're companies. People who invested in them, like Al Gore, have become billionaires as a result of making a fortune of money privately on various social media. But they're not just like other private entities. They're not like McDonald's. They are the major source of information for a large percentage of our population. Well, maybe that makes them more like the New York Times. They're private. They're not subject to government regulation. Some people say no, it makes them more like the telephone company, or it makes them more like network television or radio, all of which are subject to some government regulations. Obviously, we know that even private companies are subject to regulations under the antitrust laws. They can't get too big, they can't monopolize, they can't use predatory practices to put competitors out of business. We all know that. But the relationship between the government, the public, and the social media is the great issue of the 21st century. And as a strong supporter of the First Amendment, I'm on the side generally of letting them operate in the marketplace of ideas. But as a consumer, I'm entitled to demand of them, without having the government get involved, to demand of them standards, universal standards, standards that pass the shoe on the other foot test, standards that don't give rise to the claim, hey, you're applying selectively one set of rules to the right, one set of rules to the left, one set of rules to candidates you support, like Joe Biden, another set of rules to individuals who you may or may not like Alan Dershowitz. So I just want one set of rules. I want to be able to say to people who read the false information about me on Twitter, hey, don't take that to the bank. Twitter isn't saying it's true. Twitter is just allowing anything to go and be posted. If I can say that comfortably, I'm happy. But I can't say that comfortably if you're taking down some material. And it depends on what the material is. Now, many people favor taking down, for example, Holocaust denial information. Yeah, that's understandable. Or taking down information on how to make bombs, how to make a nuclear bomb, how to make a terrorist bomb, how to attack a church or a mosque or a synagogue. Those are the things that need to be laid out in standards. So, although this is about Joe Biden, it's really not about Joe Biden. It's about you and me and our families and everybody who uses the social media, which is everybody. You know, I thought for years when it first started, I got to get away with it. I was then, in my 70s. Yeah, I still write every word by hand. I have a pad. I have a pen. I don't need an iPhone. I don't need a computer. I still don't own a computer, but I now realize I can't live in this culture and be part of it unless at least I have an iPhone and an iPad and I can Zoom and do whatever I have to do and read material. So we're all part of the social media and we all have a responsibility to become adept at using it, and they have a responsibility to be fair to us. So my message is to the social media, tell us what you're doing. We need transparency. We need visibility. We need single standards. We need to know what your criteria are so we then can sit and judge you in the marketplace of ideas. You want to be protected by the First Amendment. I want you to be protected by the First Amendment. The First Amendment protects the marketplace of ideas. The marketplace requires transparency and openness and fairness and singular standards. So the challenge is be fair, be open, be transparent. As far as Joe Biden's concerned, he's a nice man. He's really a nice person. I feel terrible for his family. As you know, he lost so many members of his family, initially in a car crash, and then his great and wonderful son, Beau, who was the Attorney General and had a great political career in front of him, tragically died of brain cancer. I just can't imagine what Joe Biden has gone through. This is not a campaign ad for you to vote for him or for you to vote against him. I'm just giving you my objective assessment of who Joe Biden is. I don't know his children. I don't know Hunter Biden. I don't know the rest of his family. And I only know Joe Biden through the dozen meetings I've had with him over the years, all of which have been very, very positive. So I wish him well in his private life. I'm going to take no position on his election. I think he may very well be the next president of the United States if the polls are accurate, and if he is the president of the United States, he will have my support. This is the way every president of the United States has had my support. I've worked with every president, certainly since Jimmy Carter. I've worked with them on Middle East peace processes. I've worked with them on human rights. I don't make distinctions based on party. If a president of the United States, Republican or Democrat, calls on me to help him or her, I'm there to help. I have the same rules about prime ministers of Israel. I have helped every prime minister of Israel since Golda Meir and continue to do that. So in the spirit of nonpartisanship, in the spirit of analysis, this has been a program about Joe Biden. It has not been a campaign speech for Joe Biden. Again, I'm not telling you what my vote will be, but if Joe Biden is the president of the United States, he will have my support, as President Trump will have my support if he's the president of the United States. I hope I never again have to represent anybody in an impeachment proceeding or an illegal proceeding. But if you want my help on the Middle East, if you want my help on civil liberties and human rights, on civil rights, I'm there. So this is The Durst Show. We've talked about Joe Biden today. I'm sure we'll have a chance between now and November 3rd to talk about Donald Trump. I will tell you about my relationships with him over the years, again, without signifying which candidate I'm voting for. I told you, you'd never be bored if you listen to The Durst Show. This is Alan Dershowitz for The Durst Show. An important part of The Durst Show is your voice, your questions, your comments. Please call 24/7. The number is 216-710-0050. Keep your comments short and to the point. Again, the number for you to call 24/7 is 216-710-0050 for The Durst Show. Hard questions, criticisms, everything's fine. Just keep your questions short, and I'll answer them all on The Durst Show.